Morning. So today, actually getting ready to go pick up that little compact tractor again so that we can till greenhouse number 2. We actually got the plastic on greenhouse number 2 this morning, which you can actually see in the greenhouse number 2 build video coming out whenever I can get it edited. Running a little bit behind on videos right now because just getting them edited and that kind of thing. It's kind of the busy time of year, so doing the best I can to keep them rolling out. But we're gonna go hook up to the gooseneck, head over, get the tractor, come back, and then we'll start tilling. We made it back home, picked up the little Kubota from L&J Sales and Rental. We rented that for today because we were going to be tilling this up and getting it ready to plant our cucumbers. So the first thing we're going to be doing, if you watched the video when we were getting greenhouse number 1 ready, still doing the same thing here. We're just going to use this little spreader and we're going to amend the soil with some triple 12 fertilize. I believe that's what we got here. Yeah, it's some all-purpose fertilize. Probably put about 10 pounds or so of that on. We also got some pellet lime, and we have some gypsum here, which is kind of a soil conditioner. It's got some calcium in it. It does have some rates and stuff if you want to use it for your home garden. On the back, it'll tell you, how many pounds to spread when you're figuring out your square feet and stuff like that. So anytime you're applying lime, you really need a soil test because you don't want to apply too much lime, but again, without lime, your fertilize doesn't work. So you want your pH in the soil as close to 7 as possible. So I recommend you get a soil test. That way you're applying the correct amount of lime and not too much. But you want to make sure that you do apply lime. Otherwise, your fertilize, it won't allow your plants to absorb the fertilize if the pH is too low. So hope I explained that correctly. Anyway, we're going to get busy here and start putting some fertilize down. Alright, so in addition to the fertilize, we've got some compost here. We've got some topsoil that we're going to be putting in there as well. So basically, when we're adding this compost and topsoil, is that necessary? No, but you want to, in order for soil to be healthy, you need organic matter in the soil. So by putting this compost and this topsoil in our soil here, that's going to help build that organic matter. And it's something that happens over time. You're not going to, you can't do it all in one shot in 1 year. It's going to build up over time, year after year. That's why some people, they put cover crops down, things like that. Anytime you take something from the soil, it helps the soil when you put something back into it, such as a cover crop, organic matter, that kind of thing, leaving stubble on the ground. That all helps the soil. So we're going to go ahead and spread this. I think we got maybe 10 bags of each, I can't remember, but again, it's up to you about how much that you want to put down. I don't think you can really overdo it with this stuff. Again, whatever you're putting in there is going to help build your soil and increase your organic matter. So, got everything tilled up with a little tractor. Now we're just measured off our rows. We're putting some stakes in here so we can tie this off. do recommend tying it off, because if you don't, when you're laying your fabric down, then your drip tape may move, and you want it as straight as possible. Also, me particularly, I'm not a big fan of having this stuff lay on the ground. I know they make these little like push drip tape installers that puts it underneath the ground. I don't have one of those, but you know, if you can, I'd recommend to have them underground a little bit. But we're gonna go ahead and drag us, where's that at? Yep, we're gonna drag all this fabric out and start cutting it to length. Okay, we about got everything wrapped up. We the side over here we had to do a little bit different because we had to splice 3 or 4 pieces just to make sure we had enough. But it's really just covering like from here to there. You know, the drip tape's actually over here, and we'll be planning on the other side of this drip tape. But Corey's sitting there finishing up that end, just putting some stakes in. I will say, if you're messing with this fabric, this guy is your friend. He makes life a lot easier. You just, even if you have to cut pieces or whatever, use the torch, because it keeps the ends like cauterizes them or whatever, so it doesn't fray. When this stuff starts fraying, it just goes all over the place. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to run the irrigation. So we got this plumbed out from greenhouse number 1, and I'm just going to continue on. I'm going to drill a hole down around this area, splice into this pipe, and then run it over to the other side. Then we'll connect our little shut-off valves to the hard line, and then put these into our drip tape. Morning folks, back up here at the greenhouse. It's actually the next day. As you can see, got a little rain last night. So we're going to be planting inside the high tunnel here today, and we're going to be planting cucumbers and tomatoes. Now, one of the things that we're going to be doing for our cucumbers is, not sure if you can see those 2x6s laying outside, but we're actually going to come in here and screw those in across the width of the greenhouse here and tie them into the upright post, and we'll do that all the way down through here. The height is not quite enough to clear my head. I mean, you have to duck down a little bit, but the reason we're going to be doing that is we also have some metal pipes left over from the greenhouse build that we're going to put over top of the rows. And when we put them over top the rows, we can then trellis the cucumbers and train them to grow upright, and that will make them 10 times easier to pick. Not to mention, they won't be laying on the ground, so you won't get that yellow belly that some cucumbers sometimes get. Also, by planting them in here on a trellis system and having irrigation to them, we can plant them closer. So we're going to be planting our cucumbers about 12 inches apart. Our tomatoes, we're still going to stay on 20-inch spacing on the tomatoes. You know, I've read everything that you can put them 12 inches apart up to 30-some inches apart. I'd strive to go somewhere in the middle. My thought process is usually if you're a little bit further apart, the plant can bush out more, the fruit has more room to grow, the fruit can get bigger. So having a higher, denser population doesn't always translate into more yield. Some of the best tomatoes that I've ever had was actually tomatoes that were on like 31-inch spacing. They were big, nice tomatoes. Didn't have a lot of disease pressure or anything like that because they had room between them for air to get through and that kind of thing. But that's kind of the goal for today, is just to get this planted. Probably not going to mess with the trellis system today. Probably going to pick back up on that Monday. Today's Friday. I believe that we are just going to take the weekend off. We've been hitting it pretty hard here the past several weeks. If this is your first video, you know, about 7 weeks ago, none of this was here. These greenhouses weren't here. The pad wasn't here. The field was full of old plastic. Nothing was planted, and so we've been hitting it pretty hard. I just decided that we're going to take the weekend off and then come back at it Monday. We're semi caught up. It's still only the end of April, so you know, part of me wanted to push yesterday. It's like, well, maybe we'll plant a row of tomatoes or something out here in the plastic since we had it laid. But you know, it's still early, and don't want to get too far ahead of myself and then something happened and we have to replant a bunch of stuff. We missed a couple bullets with the frost on the cabbage. We did have to replant some tomatoes, but all in all, you know, everything's looking good, and we get these cucumbers planted. They should be producing fruit not too long because they've already got blooms on them. Now again, I don't recommend you letting your plants get this big before you transplant them. Our goal was to have these in this greenhouse about 2 weeks ago, and we just didn't have the greenhouse finished. So I think they'll still be fine. I think they're still going to produce, and we'll be okay. We'll start having some cucumbers before too long. Here's our tomatoes, and likewise with tomatoes, you know, these were supposed to be in the ground about 2 weeks ago in the greenhouse. So they're a little bit bigger than ideal, but they'll still be okay. This is the Skyway variety. It's actually an organic, it was actually organic seed. It's an organic tomato. We grew some of those a few years ago. Really like the flavor on them and taste, so we thought we'd try 50 plants or so anyway. That's what I think we can fit in the greenhouse there. And so we're just going to try them out again and see if they're still as good as they were the first time we had them, and we might grow some more in the future. Now, if you've been following along, then you know what this apparatus is and how we made it. This is what we use to space and burn holes in the plastic. This is just an old piece of exhaust that we bolted to this wood and measured out where it's on 20" on center. So this is what we use for the tomatoes. We're going to have to shorten this guy up for the cucumbers, but basically somebody just, you know, it's kind of waist tall, so somebody can hold it while somebody else burns. And you just put this end in the hole you just burned, and you'll be on the correct spacing. And we know that the drip tape there, I'm not sure if you can see it, this is following this line here. So as long as we stay off that line, we'll stay off of the drip tape. So in greenhouse number 1, when we planted, we actually got into the drip tape a few places. Something I'm going to try this time, we'll kind of let you guys know how it worked out. I'm going to go ahead and turn the water on, and so there'll be water in the drip tape lines, and that way my thought process behind that is that it won't melt the drip tape line since it's full of water. I got that idea off of TikTok or something, where some lady was boiling water in a plastic bag. I don't know if you guys seen that, but if that is actually true, then that same thought process should work there. I do remember in science class back in high school boiling water in a paper cup, so over an open flame. So we'll see how this works out. And there you have it, folks. Cucumbers are planted for the most part. We ran out of plants. We got about 15 or so more holes here we've got burned out, so I've got some more plants coming on, so we'll just fill them in once they get ready. Now over here in this area, We didn't finish the tomatoes out because it is sopping wet underneath here. I believe like in between the greenhouses there's a low spot, and the water kind of pooled there from the rain last night and just ran underneath, so it's a muddy mess right there. You can see the water kind of standing, and all that is fresh tilled dirt. But right here, you know, you can see the dirt's dry, so it's just in that area right there, and right up there at the beginning of the door. I guess it just came in underneath the door. Greenhouse number 1 is fine, so it's maybe just because, again, it's the freshly tilled dirt, or that little low area there. We've got to get some dirt or some gravel put in there so we can do some type of drainage over there. I haven't figured that out yet, but that'll come at a much later date. So even though it is a muddy mess in some places, we do have the drip irrigation going, so we can get these guys that don't have much water, get them some water so they can kind of transition to living outside in the dirt a little better. Probably going to throw a little fertilizer in there. We'll use the master blend, the same thing we use for tomatoes. Tomatoes and cucumbers actually do pretty good if you plant them next to each other, because they normally require a lot of the same nutrients, so we won't have to switch our fertilize up that much when it comes to what we fertilize the tomatoes and the cucumbers with. That's pretty much what we're going to wrap this video up, folks. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.